Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for the greatest rock and roll stories in the universe, all from the fan's perspective. It's Rock Stories with the Brumster. Now, here's the host of the show, my rockin' daddy, the Brumster.
Hey, welcome, Rock Stories with the Brumster. Real rock stories from the fans' perspective. We've had him on before. And because I knew we were just touching the tip of his iceberg, right? Glenn Marks, the ultimate deadhead, the ultimate Jerry Garcia fan, and an amazing rock and roll legend himself. He plays the drums, that's right, over out of Sheds, New York. Ladies and gentlemen, live right now on Rock Stories with the Brumster, back again for the first time. We've got Glenn Marks. Welcome, Glenn.
You know what, Josh? You're reaching out to me, but I gotta do a reach out on Neil Glotzer because I think that's how we connected.
Yeah, absolutely. Neil Glotzer on the program. You guys are buddies from back in the day in New York, right?
Oh, okay. So I just want to make sure I understand where we connected. But I love what you do, Josh, and thank you for getting back to me because I am a man who does have a lot of great stories, but I need you to lead me down the right path.
Absolutely. Yeah. So we had some great stories last time. Yes.
Show. Yes.
Absolutely. You got some great stories last time on Rock Stories with the Brumster. You are the ultimate deadhead, but you love a lot of other rock and roll as well, right? Who are some of your favorite bands of all time? Obviously, notwithstanding Jerry Garcia, notwithstanding your love for the Grateful Dead, Bob Weir, etc., all your awesome stories. Who are some of your favorites of all time, man?
Here we go. Earth, Wind, and Fire.
Ooh.
The Red Hot Peppers. Mm-hmm. How about when Bob Dylan, George Harrison got together? How about the Traveling Wilburys? How about Tedeschi and Trucks? Let's talk about Warren Haynes and Government Mule. Let's talk about J-Rad. Let's talk about Dark Star Orchestra. Let's talk about bands that are out there playing and just playing music. You know, one thing about music, music feelings are actually music. It's just amazing. So I listen to a lot. You know what I listened to earlier? I listened to some symphony music. And I went down and I played my drums, but I didn't play them, because I played and I broadcast. I know, and I'm ad nauseum with that. I love letting people know. After my accident 6 years ago when I fractured my spinal cord and I was paralyzed, I had to work really hard to get back, and one thing I wanted to do was play my drums. But I like listening to symphony and hearing that distinctive sounds that come from all different directions, and that's the one thing the Grateful Dead always did.
Right.
They layered the music where you could hear every instrument during a song. And in today's day, and again, Josh, we grew up the 60s, the 70s, the 80s. I firmly believe, and I kind of sound like my father now, that's when music was really real.
Right. They say that all we have now is a copy of a copy of a copy with our MP3s and stuff. But back in the day when we listened to it on the album, I mean, and it came over the radio airwaves, they were playing an album and you heard the actual analog sound. And that's probably the closest to the real world. Now, you did a lot of recording at these concerts as well. I mean, I know that the Grateful Dead are some of the only bands in the world that I know Dave Matthews allows people to come in with recording devices. To this day, you rock out to some of those original recordings, right?
But, yes, the Grateful Dead were way ahead of their time. They understood it. Now, if you know anything about it, Dick's Picks. It's called the Grateful Dead Vault. But, Jerry and the band, and, Jerry said it, I have never played the song the same way twice. Well, I have to agree, because I go down, I listen to a lot of different stuff. But that's what brought everybody back. Why do you think you'd see a tour? Why do you think you'd go on? Because you never knew. It wasn't, and this is no disrespect, and I love the Rolling Stones, Barry Solomon, but they go on tour, they play the same show. They'll throw in one extra song, like Bob Dylan did when he came up to the Syracuse Amphitheater, and for me, he played Tangled Up in Blue. But when Jerry does that song, that's where I really, I get tingles. But I'm an old school Deadhead and music fan, and I love all different things. You don't listen to everything, and damn, you go down to like Miles Davis and that jazz shit, and Evan Sternshine, you know what I'm talking about, because he's a drummer, and we spoke about, because playing the music I play on the drums and playing jazz, it's a little different, a little bit of different style. And if you don't expose yourself to everything, then you're never going to be good at anything.
Right.
That's a big.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. You, last time you were on the show, talked about going, and there was some Goodfellow type characters when you were younger, and you get to be able to go in and see some really intimate shows with some different stars. And we didn't go too much into that, but you promised our audience that you would indulge us a little bit further with some of those stories. So feel free to, if you'd like.
But hanging out with stars?
No, like when you were younger and your dad, I think you said, would take you in to go see a band or would have you inside of a little small venue, and he or some of his friends were involved with, let's just say, Goodfellow type folks. I
was brought into the world at, I think I was like around 13 when I first listened. I was 15 when I went to my first show. It was Roosevelt Stadium in Jersey. It was actually like kind of around this time of year, Jewish holidays. My cousin's there. He just got his license. He got a brand new car. And we were there, and he was a Deadhead. I was just, listening to the music. And he, gets up in the middle of like the Seder or whatever the hell we did. I got to go. And he looked at me, he goes, Glenn, are you coming? I go, yeah, cuz, I'm coming. And, and nobody was like happy, but they didn't stop him, and I went with him, and that was my first show, 1973, Roosevelt Stadium. And after that, I was hooked. And again, when the Grateful Dead played in New York, they usually played around the Jewish holidays, so it was a little, you had to know what you were doing. But I've seen a lot of shows. Over my lifetime, I posted my wall of stubs, and then I got 3 books here of stubs. Live music, there's nothing better. I'm glad we're getting, knock some wood on that one, getting through COVID. And now that musicians are allowed to come play, and Billy Strings, Artist of the Year. Man, did you hear him play with Krusman and Red Rocks, Billy and the Kids? That was awesome. I had to play a little bit along with it. Love Billy Strings, and the thing I love about it is J-Rad, and all of the other bands that are keeping the music alive. It reminds me of the movie Eddie and the Cruisers. When he sat with this guy, we wanted to teach him how to play rock and roll music. You want to do something, you want to be able to fold it up and put it on a shelf and pull it out 20 years later, and it's still fresh and good. And that's what the Grateful Dead do for me, because I can listen to things from 66, 72, 74, 77. There were good years, and they say it themselves. They had good shows and bad shows, but that's why we kept coming back. That's why the community is so large and wide. And I'm just so happy I'm part of it, Josh.
And not everybody saves their ticket stubs. You were on the Brumster Facebook page answering a question, what was your favorite concert? And you pulled out and you took some killer pictures of your favorite stubs, man. I know you have so many of them.
No, I sent you my stuff, and I brought up that show because when I saw your post on Facebook, and you know how your mind works, like computer, And I remember one show, right? You know, and then all of a sudden I remember like 300 more behind it because, number one, I've never been to a bad show. You know, because it's not about the music, totally. It's all about the environment and the people and the love and Shakedown Street. You know, they actually have a song that they talk about that. But just it's the whole entire experience that makes it great. But here we go. When I was younger, I didn't think about it. And then I got to a point. It took me about 4 years. And I started saying, like, I'm going to keep this. I'm going to keep this. And then it was all in like a big box. And like, what are you going to do with this? So I put it on, and I brought it to a guy, and he did it. And then after that, I went to shows. And then I started after 95, because what you saw on my wall of stubs was 73 to 95. Once Jerry died, that was the end of that. And then it took me 2 years to go back to shows. The first show I went to see was the Black Crowes. Oh, God. At the Beacon Theater. I lived 2 blocks away from it. And that was 2 years later. And I came back, and it brought me back to getting out to see music because I was like in a little depression. I was in Central Park on 8/8/95, seeing Bob Weir and Wasserman. My wife and I, beautiful night. We had fun. We walked home because we lived on the west side of Central Park, and we were looking forward to the fall tour. Excellent. We get home, you know, whatever, made love, went to sleep. And then I went to my office the next morning, and across the scrolling news is Jerry Garcia dies in rehab. It's like, what? What? I kind of didn't believe it, but that's the truth, and that's where I am today. But I'm so glad that the music plays on. You do what you do, Josh. You spread the love and the word. And thank you very much for including me in your show.
Likewise, man, we appreciate it. And that wall of stubs, folks, I've seen it in some pictures he's provided. It is legendary, right?
73 to 95, you know, just like enlarge it and look at the shows. Now, it's only Grateful Dead and it's only Jerry Band, okay? That's it. And then after that, and I took time off, and then I started to go see shows again. Phil and Friends, Bobby and the Midnights, Rat Dog, blah, 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 blah. You know, now it's Bobby and the Wolfgang, whatever. But I love it. J-Rag, Joe Russo, almost dead. He's a friend of mine. He used to play with Benevento, Joe Benevento, Russo. Yeah, we were a band together, and his drumming is amazing, and he brought together amazing musicians. Dark Star Orchestra. You know, Jeff Mattson from the Zen Tricksters. You know, they got just some amazing Grateful Dead music being played by other bands. Phil and Friends he's still playing, but these guys are like almost in their 80s, guys. But they have their own places like I have here, and they play at home. Touring is not easy, you know. You're away from home and your loved ones, but they're still doing it. Look at Bobby, Dead and Company. Look at John Mayer. And I'm sick of fucking, I can't curse. I'm sick and tired of people, you know, judging him against Jerry. Because get over that. There's no judging. He's just an amazing guitarist, and he's playing the music. So why don't you just shut up and listen? Yeah, and stop being a critic. I've never been there, you know? And I not good, man. I got to see Jerry a lot. I got to see him second row Madison Square Garden. I got to see him first row with Bob Dylan one night. This was, I think, 1993, 94. Dylan was wasted. Jerry had to take over the song. But see, that's the interaction with the band and how cool these guys were. I went to Buffalo, 89, recorded the show. You know, we hooked up with Bobby, Phil that night. In the hotel, I stayed in the hotel. I got there, checked in. They handed me, because I told them I'm with the band, because Mickey Hart and I went to the same high school, Lawrence High School. They tell me every room everybody's staying in. So I was in. But today, I have a family that I've built over the years that is second to none, and I wouldn't give it up for the world, Josh. And thank you so much for getting in touch with me today. And send my love to Neil Glotzer, please.
Oh, absolutely. So glad that you're on Rock Stories with the Brumster, legendary Glenn Marks from Sheds, New York. Being in New York, and I know you were in the business of finance at one time, and now you're in the business of recycling. So thank you. A new podcast on Beyond Emissions YouTube channel hosted by moi. What is the world going to look like beyond emissions? Recycling, a big part of that. That's what you do there in Sheds, New York. Bottles, cans, you name it. You help people also get some money out of it, as well. A great business that you can feel great about going to bed at night. Now, absolutely, you were also in and around New York during 9/11. It touched you personally, right?
Oh, Josh, and again, what you just said, I still trade, I still play the market, and yes, the can business is very important to me. It's me saving the planet. But yes, 9/11, back then, is what gave me the impetus to move up here. I saw the second plane hit. I lived in the Bromley on 83rd and Broadway. I just came home from wetlands, seeing Warren Haynes. Literally, we didn't leave wetlands till 6 o'clock. I was supposed to go surfing with my friend Steve Malloy. I owned a house. He wouldn't stop at my house. He wanted to go straight to Montauk. I said, dude, if I do that, I'm going to drown. So just drop me off my apartment, take my board, which he still has to this day. It's okay, nice. So I think it's a 9.2 Robert August. It was a nice board, but it's okay. I don't surf anymore. I broke my spinal cord. But the show with Warren, Wetlands was the place. Rob Shapiro, awesome. Brooklyn Bowl, Philly, Brooklyn Bowl. You know what you were doing. That was the greatest place I ever visited. And it was second home, other than the Beacon Theater. Yeah.
New York, and Sheds is where you're at.
I got to get out of the city. So I wrapped it all up, man, and I moved up to Sheds. I came up here in '03 because I was tired of up and down in elevators. I was afraid, and I wanted to be in the country. It was something I wanted. You got to remember, I owned a house on the ocean, and I got stories. I spent 8 months out there, just never going back into the city. I was a stockbroker. I never went back. I never went back to my job. Can you believe that?
Wow.
But I gave my book to a friend who was very close to me, because there were people that were close to me. And I just moved on because it was time for me, Josh. And at the time I was younger than I am now, 17 years ago. And I came up here and I bought a place, and I wanted to, I knock wood. I had a couple of bucks, and I wanted to just recreate a new life for myself in the country, because I grew up as a kid in the country on Maston Lake with Bobby Pullman and Ricky Pullman. If you guys ever listen to this, they'll understand. And I had everything. I had a beautiful apartment in New York City, the house on the ocean, and it wasn't enough for me, Josh. Now, in a sense, that's fucked up. But I gave it all up and gave it to my ex-wife, and I moved up here to start a new life for myself in 2005. And here I am in 22. We got the stage going up on there. We just fixed it. It's awesome. New lighting. The system, we just upgraded it. And we've tweaked it this year. And now next summer in Sheds, Nathan's Garden and the Farm is going to put on some really good shows for the public. Oh. That's it.
Hey, I'll make sure that I include it in the description. Name a couple of the bands or artists that are going to be playing at Sheds next year.
Here you go, baby. Oh, God. DJ Logic. Let's start with him. Now, Pete Conti and Friends, but now he's in another band called One-Eyed Jack. Okay? And they're awesome. Jimmy Hubbard, Matt Hartle, TNT, now they call themselves Flintora, House of Cards, and these are some amazing musicians. Plus, how about Pete Levin, who plays with the Blind Balls of Alabama and has played with the Allman Brothers, with Greg. Not with my brother, Peter, open heart surgery, and he is alive and well. I just saw him literally a month ago up here in Baldwinsville. See, I got a very tight community that I live in. It's Grateful Dead related. It's about the love and the music, and those are the people I stay really close to. Warren Haynes, very close to the family. He's not going to be playing the stage because Warren's a little expensive these days. But we do certain things at certain times, and there's always great music playing, you know?
Well, I know we talk a lot about the good experiences, and I don't want to be a negative Nancy or nothing, but just for our listeners at Rock Stories with the Brumster, any artists that you've ever seen that you feel just sucked or were total assholes to the fans?
I'll give you one. You know, it's funny you say that. You know the Counting Crows?
Yes.
There was that one song that was great. I don't remember it often, but I went to see them at a venue in New York City. I'm not sure which one it was, and I, of course, had great seats. And they came, Mr. Jones, you know, and I knew every word to it. So they come on with that song. I stand up. I'm in second row. Nobody else in the whole place is up and dancing. I don't get it. And they came over and they ushered me out.
How dare you enjoy the music? Oh, my God.
I'm trying to remember which place this was. I was there with my wife. So I said, okay, listen, okay, great. They go, no dancing. I go, what is this, Footloose? So I get up and I go, okay, cool. I won't stand up second row. So I get up and I go into the back, and I'm literally against the back wall in the place, just, you know, shaking to the song. Number one, the song, he rushed through it. It wasn't as good as the way I heard it when I liked it. And then they said to me, sir, my father was the sir, you can't dance in here. I'm going, you're kidding me. I said, all right, give me a minute. I went back down to my seats. I go, Shelley, they're not letting me dance. I got to go. And I went to Wetlands. You could do whatever the fuck you want. And then I met my wife home later. That's the kind of life I lived in New York City. And again, there was a lot of places I got my books right here, but I don't feel like looking. The venue was not one of my favorites to be in at a show.
Yeah, and I can't imagine, what artist would want everyone just to sit there on their hands and shut up? That's ridiculous.
I agree with you. I think artists on stage get a lot of energy from the audience. That's what I was told from the Grateful Dead. They love to see the fans up and dancing, you know? And for some reason, I don't know. And it was the Counting Crows. You know the song I'm talking about, Josh? Mr. Jones.
Mr. Jones. Mr. Jones.
Mr. Jones. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of the Counting Crows, so it's not a surprise to me.
No. Well, I like that song, and I know the words, and then they were playing in my neighborhood, so I went to see a lot of music. I also had very good connections and friends. Concert Connection, I'll give you a little plug here. My friend Joe and John. So I had tickets to anything going on in New York City any particular night on any particular night. I was privileged. I'd go to Macaulay's, the bar, and every show, every venue, there were tickets. I would go literally a half hour before, and whoever didn't pick up their tickets or whatever was left over, I had my choice.
Nice.
So I was going to the Bowery Ballroom. I could be going to any other place in the city, Irving Plaza, Irving Plaza, which was a very special place that I went to. So New York City was great. Then I moved to Sheds, and I go, you're moving up here, bro. You won't have that anymore. So I bought myself a ridiculous sound system. I got back into playing my drums, and I set it up and living the life of a pseudo rock star. How's that, John?
Oh, I love it. I love it. Glenn Marks,
Yeah,
live from New York. He's in Sheds, New York, folks. That's in the country. Most of us don't, especially those of us in Rio Linda, California, most of us do not look at New York and think that there's any country or pastures or anything there. We're sorely mistaken, aren't we?
Solely, and I'll be honest with you, it is Sheds, New York, but my zip code is 13122, and it's New Woodstock. So I remember Woodstock in '69. I was a little young, but I was in camp. But the funny thing about being in camp, that particular weekend, a couple of counselors never came back. That was the funniest part. But now I wanted to recreate. Now, I'll send you some pictures of my stage up here and what we do, Josh, because it's all about the love of music. And I got a 25 by 50 foot stage lit, and next summer, Sheds Bottle and Camp, along with Nathan's Garden, The Farm, Sheds, New York. Now we're going to call it the New Woodstock, 13122, the New Woodstock, because we do it new and improved. And you know how we do it? We include children. We include, because everybody has kids, but you still want to have fun. So we make a whole thing for the kids when the parents want to come and have some fun. So we know what we're doing. I'm a 64-year-old man. They just threw me a birthday party when I'm 64. And I feel better than I ever have about the future of, number one, rock and roll, the Grateful Dead, and the music. Like I said, Eddie and the Cruisers. You create music, you can fold it up and put it on the shelf. And literally, I go downstairs and play. I just played a Loose Lucy. The Grateful Dead, the last time they played it was 74. They broke it out in 90. Talk about.
And you literally just got in there and played it on the drums yourself.
And I never listened to it. I just did it. I really did when I came here. But that's the best part about the Grateful Dead. That's why everybody comes back. Because you never know what they're going to do next. Bob Weir. Let me give Bobby and Bill and Mickey a shout out. Mickey Hart went to Lawrence High School. Didn't graduate because he went to the Army. But he was, went to my high school. And I used that in my days of, little scamming to get into certain hotels where they were staying. I did shit like that. I knew how to play the game to get what I wanted, but I never took advantage of anybody. And in the end, we all just had a good old time.
Glenn Marks, Sheds, New York, and ultimate rock and roll friend of the Brumpster, Rock Stories with the Brumpster, on again with us. God, I really appreciate you, man, and just sharing all these awesome behind the scenes and from your heart, from your heart stories. I mean, that's what it's all about.
It's funny. I spoke to you prior to what we were doing, and you wouldn't tell me. You just said, just don't worry about it. You just be you, and that's all I'm doing, and it's awesome. I'm going to say one thing on this at the end. There's a friend I have, Pete Tonti. He plays with the band One-Eyed Jack. I've had the pleasure to play with the man, and we played a Fire on the Mountain. Now, you know how much I love Jerry, Josh. This man can play like no other, and he's young, handsome, and I just want to give the band a shout out. It's an East Coast band. They play in New Jersey. One-Eyed Jack and Pete Tonti now is one of the guitarists in the band, and they're really good. And other than that, Matt Hartle on the West Coast, man, could he play? He's right there. And Jimmy Hubbard playing the bass. Now, if I can get those three together, and then have Pete Levin and Brian Card and Andy Card and Bob Card, and we're all up on the stage like the traveling Wilburys, and we can put something together and make magic. That's all I want to do, Josh, moving forward, is make musical magic.
Handle me with care. I love it, man. Musical magic. I'm gonna write that down right there. Musical magic.
Right there.
Rock stories.
Music is, what feelings sound like.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That one, music is what feelings sound like.
There's folks out there who actually have part of their brain cut out, and out of nowhere, like when they see a color, they hear the music, and when they hear music, they see a color, like vice versa. Like, it's amazing how the brain works. And when you find ways without having to cut part of it out to make those connections, that's on another level, man. That's awesome. That is music magic.
And you know what? What you just said made so much sense to me, that you're 100% right, Josh. And I don't know who got anything cut out of their brain, but, we only use 3% of our brain. But it's really an amazing thing. It actually, after breaking my spinal cord 6 years ago, I used my brain to help me heal. Now, along with that, I had to do a lot of rehab and working, but now the one thing I want to do is be able to play my drums again. And I'm not as good as I used to be, but just playing them and having everything else I have around me, and my family and the stage and what we have going on moving forward in Nathan's garden and the greenhouse. Oh, wait, I'll send you some pictures of what we're doing. Talk about living off the land. That's what we do in sheds. That's what we do. And it's such a beautiful thing. It really is, Josh. And thank you again for inviting me onto your broadcast. I really appreciate it.
My pleasure. And we will have you on again, because I know there is a plethora of stories that we didn't even delve into. So next time we'll continue the conversation. Glenn Marks, live from New York and at the Sheds. That's awesome, man. Ultimate Deadhead and rock fan and friend of the Brumster. Hang on the line for our engineers, man. Hey, real quick before we go, can you please let our listeners know if they want to follow some of what you've got going on in Sheds, New York? How can they contact you, Glenn?
Glenn Marks on Facebook, simple. We operate Nathan's Garden, which also has a different website on Facebook. And, I'll give you my phone number because I don't hide from anybody, 315-662-3627. Give me a call. Don't text. I'm old school. This is a house phone.
I know, it's folk, dude. It is. It's just like when we were younger, Glenn. It's right there, just a regular phone on the wall, right? Just old-fashioned style. That is so cool, dude.
It is. No, and I love that because, and again, the texting and all that stuff, I understand how the world works today, but there's nothing like a real phone call and conversation. And that's what I live by. That's it. My cell phone is for my bat phone. It's my personal use. It takes great pictures. That's what I really have it for. Other than that, it's not that important to me. I have a very self-enclosed life. When I get out, I bring the cell phone. But it's basically just to be there in case. Other than that, I am the man who deals with the phone on the wall. So if you want to talk to this man, you got to pick up the phone and call me.
Glenn Marks, Sheds, New York, rock and roll fan, and friend of the Brumster. Thanks for joining us, Glenn. I really appreciate you, man. Thanks for rocking with us today.
Yes, friend of the Brumster. And you know what's really cool? The way you did this, and you wouldn't, and, oh man, I have so many of. Do you ever, when they talk about like an iceberg, like the Titanic hit one, and you only see like 10% of it and 90 is under the water?
Mm-hmm.
Well, when you see to explore under the water, because I've only given you about 10%, So whenever you want, Josh, I'm available for you and the Brumster and everything you do, man. The love of music. Loving music. Come on.
That's what I'm talking about. Right on, Glenn.
Hi, baby.
All right, rock on, Glenn. Thanks, man.
Hey, you rock on too, bro, and I'll talk to you soon.
You too. Rock Stories with the Brumster. Man, friend of the Brumster right there. That guy rocks. He loves Grateful Dead, everything Grateful Dead. And I'm not kidding. I am not kidding. I should share that on the Brumster Facebook page. Go check it out. I need to share that. His pictures. He has some awesome stub collections, ticket stub collections from all of the different concerts he saw all the way up to 1995 when we lost Jerry. How cool is that? And we got to listen to the killer story behind the scenes, below the water, the rest of the iceberg, right? Not just the 10% sticking out, behind the scenes right here. Real rock stories from the fans' perspective. I am the Brumster. You can listen to this show every Sunday, 11 o'clock, Rock Radio 559, but on demand at any time at Rock Stories with the Brumster YouTube channel. Make sure you like our channel and subscribe. Have an awesome day. Thanks for rocking with us. It's Rock Stories with the Brumster. Real rock stories from the fans' perspective.